I'll be honest, my problems are not as high stakes as Kanye's, but I have problems. And maybe a crowd in New York would be nice enough to indulge me, so as we get to the end of a night of theater, and comedy, and sweaters coming on and off, I got one question for you. And that question is, can I say my shit, New York? Can I say my shit? I got lots of shit to say. I got lots of shit to say. I can't fit my hand inside a Pringle can. I have a huge amount of trouble fitting my hand inside.
This is the self-proclaimed D-list celebrity, Bo Burnham. He is well known for creating the comedy specials What?, Make Happy, and most recently, Inside. He also wrote and directed the film 8th Grade. Bo Burnham talks about his experiences in the media landscape frequently. The internet has changed a lot in the last 30 years. With its modest beginnings and its predecessor as the ARPANET, to its current state of a market that has democratized monotonous creation to every man, woman, and child.
I thought that sort of my anxiety as a performer was grounded in my specific experience as a 24-year-old male comedian with an audience. And then 14-year-old girls would come up to me after the show and say, I feel exactly like you do. And I'd go, what? So I realized that the sort of pressures I had as a D-list celebrity had been democratized to an entire generation. Now everyone feels like they can have their own brand, and everyone feels like they have to present themselves. And it was like a relief and oblivion to realize I was not alone, but I was also very not unique as well.
This has created what Bo Burnham calls the me generation.
They say it's the me generation.
They say it's like the me generation.
The me generation. I think the labeling of a generation is the me generation.
We have created this monster, and now we have to know how to survive it. But first, let's look at what the monster is.
They say it's the me generation, that all kids need to perform social media, but that all kids need to perform. But you're arguing less that social media is making kids like this than kids were raised with this need to perform, and social media, you're sort of saying social media markets the answer to them.
Well, yeah.
But then becomes this prison.
Man, first world problems got weird over the last 10 years, didn't they? I'm saying first world problems, the joke used to be like, I have to pick up my cappuccino machine broke. And now it's like, I'm in a meta prison of my own mirrored image.
The internet can clearly look like its users. A literal mirror has been placed in front of us. And this time, instead of seeing ourselves in the mirror, let's see what the mirror sees in us. Oh, I should probably introduce this guy. This is Douglas Rushkoff.
This guy, you'd really like him. Is a guy named Douglas Rushkoff, and he wrote this book called Present Shock, which is just all about how, like, we were waiting for the future for so long, and we've arrived in the future, and we don't know what to do. And narrative is out the window, and there's no beginning or end. There's no writing process, making, putting out. Everything is just condensed into one thing. And
Douglas Rushkoff is an American media theorist. He has been researching the media phenomenons of the internet since its integration. And Douglas Rushkoff has also been published in several books and made several documentaries on his findings. Present Shock discusses the distraction of the internet and the consumer's attention being the only untapped resource for companies to actively seek through the internet. And a big proponent of his research has been Bo Burnham. So much so that Bo Burnham had the chance to do an interview/podcast with him. Anyway, back to the point. Bo Burnham is in a very unique media position. He has the same vantage point as most internet-famous millennials, but his view of the media landscape has been expressed to his audience in a slightly different way.
So we flock to performers by the thousands because we're the few that have found an audience, and then I'm supposed to get up here and say, follow your dreams, as if this is a meritocracy. It is not, okay? I had a privileged life, and I got lucky, and I'm unhappy. It's conscious of self. What the social media, it's just the market's answer to a generation that demanded to perform. So the market said, here, perform everything to each other all the time for no reason. It's prison. It's horrific. It is performer and audience melded together. What do we want more than to lie in our bed at the end of the day and just watch our life as a satisfied audience member. I know very little about anything, but what I do know is that if you can live your life without an audience, you should do it.
While some celebrities will ignore or stay silent about the system that places them on a pedestal, Bo Burnham draws attention to the system, criticizes it, and warns people to stay away. This can be seen in his 2016 special, Make Happy. So, if this is the media that Bo Burnham has criticized, let's take a look at the content that he says does better. More specifically, the honesty in work that is made for art instead of for money.
So I was seeing, the kids that had 10 subscribers, the ones that were imitating the people that were being seen. Because as someone that was on the internet, that went viral on the internet, we tend to only talk about people that get attention on the internet, which are actually the least interesting people. And the majority of people on the internet are expressing themselves to no one and expressing themselves to something more like God, where it's just this sort of vacuum that they don't know if it's there or not.
Furthermore, people should be doing honest projects for entertainment and for art purposes instead of for more money. As Bo Burnham explains,
sellouts did a really cool thing in like the mid-90s, or not even the mid-90s, maybe the mid-2000s, where calling someone a sellout is hack. Like it's hack to say sellout. If you say sellout, you're like a loser.
Right.
Fuck that.
Right.
You're sellouts.
Yeah.
Stop selling out. And when I mean selling out, I mean stop doing the worst shit ever. Meaning, like, if you're making $10 million a year, don't do a commercial for an awful thing. Isn't that like, I'm saying, and people might think I'm talking about someone personally. I'm actually talking about like 100, horrifically, I'm talking about like 100 people.
Of course it can make sense if you need money to get through your mortgage. You need money to get through rent or feeding your family. That's totally understandable. But if you have, as he says here, millions of dollars, you do not need to be a proponent of a terrible thing. Thanks, Ricky Gervais.
Optus called again. They said, we'd like you to do another advert for us. I said, what about, people thinking that I've undermined my artistic integrity? They said it's for Australia. I went, yeah, right.
And isn't it funny for Ricky Gervais to get up there, who was a genius, and to get up and roll his eyes and goes like, Verizon's paying me $2 million. They didn't even. Fuck you, man. It's not enough to be self-aware. It's not enough to be a self-aware asshole.
Yeah.
You have to stop being an asshole.
Now, let's move on. Let's enter in our solution. Joel Haver. Joel Haver is a YouTube content creator who has risen in popularity recently. His amazing growth in a short period of time has taken many people by surprise.
Yeah, you brought up having 3,000 in November. That's a tremendous amount of growth in a short period of time.
And what does he do? Quite simply, he makes honest films. And good films at that. I would even rate him as amazing, despite the fact that his method of filming would not be taught in any film school.
I grew very disinterested in scripts a couple years ago, and I haven't scripted anything since because I like the looseness. And the looseness lends itself brilliantly to a no-budget movie. If you script something, you're waiting on this to fall through, a location or actors you need, or if it's a bigger scene, maybe you need a crew. And when you don't script something, you could just film that day no matter what. What's happening that day, it can be part of the movie. It's operating from this space of like, I want to create emotionally. I want to try to express what I'm feeling that day through the medium of film. I got rid of lighting. I didn't like writing scripts, so I got rid of that. And then I just practiced with what was left, and figured out what can I create. I got rid of these things that were making it a bore for me, so now it should be fun. So let's do that, and I'm excited at the prospect of anyone who saw my film getting inspired in any way to create something similarly, who might have been bogged down by the conventions prior. I think I think that's what excites me most about having an audience now, is being able to show people this alternative.
He digs into his niche culture and goes for his dream to create for none other than himself.
People find more connection and specificity, and he was saying how, you know, if you make stuff for like the lowest common denominator of appeal, then, you know, you're kind of scratching on the surface of what people find enjoyable. But if you make something with a really, really narrow perspective, in a weird way, people kind of connect to it more because they can kind of feel the intention behind it.
And this does seem to pass Douglas Rushkoff and Bo Burnham's concept of good content. The truth of honest reaction is exactly what Bo Burnham went for in his movies, and it can also be seen in Joel Haver.
But Kayla in your movie, she's so real. I mean, because in the very first video, she admits, well, I'm using these notes. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
She doesn't cut that out.
We're all like editing ourselves every day, you know, and the most talented artist you see online is putting forth their best moments and their best, you know, and I try to not be quite so censored. I try to put some of my more like vulnerable, and I try to be imperfect, as I said. I'm like, I can't go back and change that because that's betraying that truth of the project. And so it's like, if you could push past that, like, the audio's bad, I gotta dub the whole thing, or the focus was off, gotta reshoot the whole thing. And it's like, instead just look past that and be like, is the emotion of what I captured good?
Mm-hmm.
Then let's run with it.
A lot of what Bo Burnham and Douglas Rushkoff find so beautiful in creation is very prevalent in Joel's films.
Let's do it.
Right.
And you see kids online that like are self-made out of their bedroom, imposing on themselves the standards of Hollywood and higher culture for no reason when they really don't have to. It's really weird to watch a little show a 15-year-old kid is making in their bedroom and go like, why are you adhering to the standards of NBC?
I feel we are also inundated with rules we put on ourselves, and rules that, like, if you're trying to make it in the industry, things you're supposed to do. And I've always felt such a strong connection to that, because I'm like, how do you create a film different than how people want you to do it or tell you to do it? So I got really attached to this idea of maybe things can feel real, or maybe things can actually be real, but it could still play as a narrative. And like, I think the impetus of Pretend That You Love Me came from this belief I had built up over the years that my struggles are inherently compelling. And I think that's the strongest thing my art has given me. It's, you don't need to exaggerate. You don't need to purely escape from reality. You can present your struggles, whether it is in a more abstracted way or in a very direct way, and people will relate because everyone goes through stuff.
Joel has many ideas that are contradictory to Bo Burnham's advice, one of which is that everyone should create.
And the big one was that idea that everyone wants to create, we're just discouraged by society. You know, this idea of there's creative people and people go, I'm not a creative person, I'm not an artist. It's like, have you tried? It's like, because your hands can draw too, you know, your hands, you know, your voice can sing too. It doesn't have to be good right away. Like, the people who are creators that like are good, like most people, I'm sure there's some people that just have natural talent and they're like singing opera at the age of 3 or something, but you know, most people just practice.
Although he does put out videos at an accelerated pace compared to Bo Burnham's advice for taking time in the creating process.
Yeah, the difference between, you know, conceiving something, having the idea, making it, writing it, putting it out, getting feedback, revising it, has condensed to like a point, you know, and now before we even had the idea, we're testing it out, and it's, you know, and it's that's really hard. There's a real assault on the creative process. There's some people that are built for that. There's some great sort of daily commentators that should have that. But if you look at YouTube, like, it is all that. It is all of the moment, instant commentary, aging like milk, for people that were more interested in longer form things that take some time. You have to resist a lot of impulses to because it's very scary to think, oh my God, I'm dying. Everyone's forgetting me.
Right. And that can
no one has
happen
any
in
patience.
48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
There are projects that do show Joel's massive amount of time placed into making art. One such example is the feature film Pretend That You Love Me. Currently free on YouTube. Wink, wink. This film is filled with compelling plot, amazing visuals, and good structure. And this does seem to pass Douglas Rushkoff and Bo Burnham's concept of good content. I think Joel Haver's style is amazing, and he should be learned from. He didn't have to resort to cheap tricks like other famous YouTubers you might know of to become super popular in a short amount of time. He just made good content. Maybe if we start to take pages from artists like Joel Haver, the me generation will be able to survive its own endless slew of content. Or at least have something better to watch.